Do you know the Dave Darren Show?
Hot enough to boil a monkey's bum.
Who the fuck is Dave Darren?
Who the fuck is Dave Darren?
Are you a poofda?
He used to be on terrestrial radio, but he got fired.
It's over. Don't you think it's over?
I'll spit.
Who the fuck is Dave Darren?
Here comes the bull spiller now.
Dave Darren.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. So tonight, don't forget tonight, I'm doing a show right now, but don't forget tonight at 6 o'clock p.m. Pacific Coast time, 9 o'clock p.m. We're going to do a show tonight. We're going to have Kathleen on talking about UFOs, paranormal. She was stunned by a UFO. I want to know what that's all about. So now, when we get to tonight's show, just keep this in mind. I'd like this show to be a little bit, well, a lot more than just potentially fictitious experiences, things that are, I want this show to be about sort of data. For instance, we had Tony on last week. Tony is 49 years of collecting data. To be honest, what I wanted a presentation of that data. I got a scam phone call here. I'm sure this is for healthcare, right? Let's see what this is all about. Hello? Hello? And look, then you get a hang up. I'm sure it's a telemarketer for healthcare. But to get back to the topic, this is what I really want this show to become. You turn on TV and see all these reality shows. My wife watches them. I'll go in the room there. I'll see them, and I'll hightail my ass out of there because I don't want to see reality TV shows because they're fake reality. They're fabrications. I want this show to be, for instance, okay, so someone's going to send me this. One guy sends me these pictures all the time. And in the picture, you see a light. You see a little dot of a light. Now, I don't know what that is, and I don't think he really knows what that is. And it'd be constantly sending me these pictures of little dots in the sky. I could do that as well, whether I do it by going out and actually taking pictures of dots in the sky, or I take a black picture and I put dots on it using Photoshop. I want to explore the reality of what's going on in the UFO, conspiracy, paranormal community. I want to get to some of the facts. Some of the data. Now, Sparky sent me something that I'm going to have to look at about the Canadian viewing in Groom Lake? No, not Groom Lake. I forget the name of the lake. In Canada, in Falcon Lake. So I'm going to have to read that. I think there's some names in that. I don't know if I can pull some of those names and get them involved in the show. But if someone's got some data out there, and they've got some years of capturing this data, and now they're going to give this data to the Canadian government or whatever, I want to get my hands on some of that data. Like I said before, and I've said this to you guys time and time again, I do not believe that we are the only being on this entire universe happens to be ironically and coincidentally on this planet. In fact, I went to this coffee shop that has a bunch of Mormons in it. I'm in Arizona. There's a Mormon community close to me. There's a Mormon church and all that. I was there with our dog Kim before she had passed away. I met these two guys there, and I'm talking about this show because back then I was pretty new to doing this type of show. And I was talking to the guys, and one guy said, I believe that there's life on other planets, but it's not human life. I believe that there's a planet, he said this, there's a planet with trees on it. And that's the planet's got trees, and that's it. Vegetation, trees. Then he said there may be another planet that's got animal life on it. But we are the only planet populated with human beings of this intelligent level. Now, sometimes I think that some of the animals are more intelligent than humans, but I believe, I believe that there's life out there on other planets. Now, did they find Earth? Did they find Earth 300,000 years ago, like in the ancient alien programs? And when you watch those ancient alien programs, all right, you get the facts, but you can't question the facts because it's not interactive. So, when a guy's on there and he's talking about ancient aliens, I want to ask that guy some questions. That's what I want. I want to interact with that guy. I want to figure out what I want to test him. So that's what I want to do. I want to do a show to test us. And I want some more meaningful dialogue. The show is somewhat entertaining because I sometimes am an entertaining type of individual, but I really want to start to understand this stuff. And I started the show out that way, and I kind of drifted a bit to the more entertainment philosophy. But when I had Tony on, I really wanted to get his 49 years worth of data. What? Give me the data. Give me the coordinates of where these craft landed. Give me some of the dimensions of these guys. Like, did they weigh 100 pounds? Did they have 5 fingers? I wanted to understand that guy. We didn't get that, and I was disappointed in that. I really was. I wanted to really pick his brain. I wanted him to open up. He said he had papers with a briefcase there because he kept looking at it, and someone actually called the show up and said, "What's Tony looking at?" And I even said to the guy, "So what do we care about what Tony's looking at? We care about what Tony's talking about." But then I said, "Tony, why don't you open up the briefcase and share some of the documents you got there?" And we couldn't see the documents. He wouldn't read the documents. Yet he's got 49 years of data. That's a lot of years of data to give us in reality no data. I didn't think we got any data out of that show, and I was kind of vastly disappointed. You know, that's what I want. I want to really get to the nitty gritty of this stuff. Now, today's show right now, we're going to talk about yesterday's show. And we're going to, by the way, congratulations to Ren and Terry for winning the CDs yesterday. I'm going to get them in the mail to you guys on Friday or Monday. I'm going to try to do it tomorrow. If not, I'll get it out Monday. You may get a delay in getting it because of the holidays, right? It's Merry Christmas. Can we say Merry Christmas or do we have to say holidays now? You know, I don't want to be politically correct, and that's exactly why I'm not on terrestrial radio, because I'm not an element that can survive on terrestrial radio. In fact, if you saw my opening, you saw the names of the stations I was fired from for being the guy that wants to have his own creative format and his own capabilities of doing a show. Yesterday, I got critiqued by some of the people on the thread for the guest that I was having on, who said, "Dave, you got no guests. You got very few listeners to your show. You're kind of irrelevant." But you know what? I do this show to build some relevancy with you guys, and I'm going to ask you guys to try to bring up the level of people that watch this show. So if you could do this, because this show is not about me. If you haven't realized it, you probably realize it now. The show is more about the guest and more about you guys calling in to talk to the guest or commenting to the guest on chat. The show has very little to do with me. It has to do with me trying to understand the topic and the format by having guests on and you guys questioning the guest along with me so that we can figure out what's going on here logistically with the UFO community. That's what this is supposed to be about. It's not supposed to be about glitz and glamour and CGI and effects. It's supposed to be about us figuring shit out. Basically, that's what it's about. It's about figuring shit out. And we're not figuring it out yet. I haven't figured it out yet. Despite the fact that there's all these programs on TV to try to help me figure it out, they're not helping me at all. There are people talking that I can't question at that exact dynamic moment. And I'm not getting an understanding. I'm listening to them tell me what they want me to absorb. I don't want to absorb it unless I can question them and figure out in my own logical mind what I understand. So to get back to what today's program is about, it's about last night. I'm not going to dwell on last night, but last night you saw we had a guest. He called in. I was surprised he called in. It was great that he called in because I wanted to understand him. I was hoping he would understand me and we come to maybe some kind of center of understanding. It didn't happen, and that's all right. It didn't happen, but I had him on for that reason. Now, one of the things that was kind of frightening about that is the fact that his group, where he posted that thing that he posted, everyone agreed with him. They all very highly agreed with him. They decided now, if you remember yesterday, and not to resume the whole topic of yesterday, but the guy said that his daughter was spoken to in a, what was the word that was used? It wasn't loud, and in a raised voice. That's the word, raised voice. And someone came on. They said in Southern talk, to understand the lingo of Southern people who use words, a raised voice means a loud voice, a yelling voice, a screaming voice. Now I don't know that because I've never lived down south, and to be honest with you now, I'm a lot more hesitant to go down south after what I experienced yesterday. But guy comes on and he says someone talked in a raised voice to his daughter. And then now if you listen to last night's show, you realize that guy now wants to meet that guy, and he's got his daughter on the lookout for the guy. So as soon as he enters the restaurant or the buffet that they're at, his daughter is now instructed to call him up so he can come down to the buffet line and have a confrontation with this guy who raised his voice or yelled at, if we call it Southern wording of the word raised to be yelled or screamed. So he wants to go down there and meet this guy. And if this guy does not apologize to him or to his daughter, I think he said he's got to apologize. I guess he didn't expect an apology to him, but he wanted an apology to his daughter. Now, the guy's probably going to be one of two ways. He's going to be scared out of his mind, and he's going to apologize to his daughter, or he's going to go in there knowing that this confrontation is going to take place because he's probably monitoring the thread, and he's going to be prepared for this confrontation. And how's he going to be prepared for this confrontation? Is he going to go there after he pumped iron in the gym and took some lessons in self-defense, or is he going to go there armed with a weapon? And then the guy who's going to meet this guy to have a confrontation with him in the buffet, is he going to go in there armed? In other words, should everyone, should it be like the Wild West? As soon as one gunman comes in, the bar empties out, and then it's gunman to gunman, they fight it out right in the bar. Is it going to be like that? Is that where we're getting to? And I did ask them, I said, was your daughter threatened at all? And he said no. She wasn't physically threatened at all. So there were only words exchanged. And the problem with the whole thing yesterday was not necessarily the one individual guy we spoke to. It was the collective group of people that responded to his post that all felt he was validated in the fact that he took those words, those raised voiced or loud or screamed words, without any physical impact to his daughter whatsoever, and he decides to go punch his teeth out until he's laying on the ground begging to meet his maker because he's in so much pain. I thought that was kind of a shocking thing. I firmly expected the one guy to really have his beliefs. He was angry. Now, did he diffuse the anger? Hopefully he did. Hopefully I helped him to diffuse the anger. But during the program, he said he's going to try to meet this guy, whether it be a day later, a couple weeks later. He even extended it to 9 years later. He said, 9 years later, if I meet this guy, he doesn't apologize, I'm going to take his wheelchair and I'm going to push it down the stairs. That's what the guy said. He was that angry over words. And words equaling hostility to me and violence was dangerous. And to have all those people agree with him was more of a shock than just having the guy on to talk about his anger. I sensed a lot of anger from the people that he knew, and I'm guessing that they all pretty much live around the community he lives in, since he's a musician. So he's a performing musician that all these people probably know his band. They go to the gigs he's playing at, in other words, the bars or venues he's playing at, and they're his friends from knowing his band. So they're probably people that live around his area. So that means to me, the topic of today's show is, do you guys know any places that you don't want to visit? I pretty much would take Louisiana and say, you know what? I'd like to go there because I'm a music guy. I like blues. I don't like kind of the older blues that they do in Louisiana. What do they call that? I don't remember the name of that type of blues. But I'm not really into that type of blues. I like the more modern blues. So I'm into that a little bit more than turning on the 50s blues. It's popular in some parts of the country. And in fact, it's on one of the radio stations here in Phoenix. We have a station on Sunday. One of the guys that owns one of the venues here called the Rhythm Room in Phoenix, and I know him pretty well. In fact, when I did animal rescues, he used to loan me his place to have bands come in and raise money for animal rescues. This is really cool. The guy's cool. He has a blues show, and it's more like the 50s and 60s blues. So it's a different type of blues than I'm sort of into at this particular moment. But I'd like to go to Louisiana because there's blues music out there. But you know what? After seeing one individual, which I think, okay, one individual in the entire state, although I'm not that naive to think that one individual is there's only one guy in the entire country who thinks like that. You take words, convert it into an immediate violent act, and then you go on your way and you punch people's teeth out. So I'm not naive enough to think that there's just one guy in the entire country who thinks that way. However, when you get on a thread and you see everyone agreeing with him, that violence is definitely I'm a parent. That's what they're saying. I'm a parent. Someone attacks my daughter or son with vocal words. He deserves to get his ass kicked and punched out. I just don't see it escalating that quickly. And some people call me a wimp for doing that. But you know what? Do I really feel like spending a night in jail or going through all the legal expenses for punching someone's teeth out after they said they actually used their words to raise their voice using words, and I'm going to silence his words by punching him in the mouth? So I just didn't agree with that. So I'm curious, do you guys have any places that via being on social media, will you avoid any places? For instance, let me read some of the thread here. Ren says people get killed over Popeyes sandwiches these days. You know, I don't know that one. Popeyes is the place for chicken, isn't it? Usually, Popeyes chicken. I've been to Popeyes. I thought that was a chicken place, but they probably have chicken sandwiches, right? People get killed over Popeye sandwiches these days, and if I haven't read that, I try not to listen to the news. My wife watches the news. I don't even watch the news. But it's pretty bad that people, you know, it seems like, and who was, I think someone brought up a point yesterday, and I can't remember it. It was brought up by Sparky. She brought up a point, and maybe I'll have to read it and give it to you tonight. I'll play it back this evening once I read it. His daughter responds oppositely of the father. I'm not sure of that. I didn't hear any response from his daughter. I didn't monitor the thread after I discussed it last night, so I'm not sure what transpired after that. Let's see. Hi, good to see Terry. Good to see Rand. Good to see John. Azariana. Let's see. Anyone else? John. Good to see John as well. Let's see. John says, So John's bringing up Vermont. Let me see what he says about Vermont. I went skiing there, fell and broke my shoulder. So you won't go there for that reason, but that's kind of a different reason. I mean, when you fell and broke your shoulder, did anyone come over there to help you out, figuring out if you're okay? And there's a fear factor in doing that too, because now everyone's so scared of lawsuits that if someone's laying on the ground and they're laying there in pain, you know, is it a risk these days to go over and help them? And potentially, you know, the guy laying on the ground might say, "Oh, I think I broke my leg," and then you pick him up or try to move him away from the line of skiers coming down the hill to get him out of the line of traffic. You pick him up, and you're going to damage his leg more, and then you're going to have a lawsuit because you compounded his injuries because you actually lifted him up to move him off the skiing lane. Some people are going to think that these days with all the TV commercials. You turn on daytime TV, how many commercials do you see from lawyers out there trying to seduce you to give them business, not so that you can earn money, so that they can earn money off of your court case. So, you know, a lot of people now, they're hands off. They'll see something going on, and for risk of physical damage to them, because now everyone's escalating things. We saw escalation last night. You get involved in something that seems like it's just going to be like an argument of words, and then we saw last night that words can escalate into violence. So you get into some conversation with two people on the street, and you try to get in the middle of them to be the peacemaker, to mellow them all out, and then one thing happens, and then you're dead. And so now people don't want to get involved. Some people say, you know, how could people watch and not get involved? Maybe that's why I got involved last night with a situation that started off as words that is going to potentially, hopefully it won't, but potentially going to be aggravated into an aggressive posture, which could, you know, I didn't say it last night. I forgot to say this, but suppose that guy that had the raised words to this guy's daughter, suppose he's watching the thread. Suppose this is a pretty small community in Louisiana. So maybe supposedly this guy goes into this buffet quite often, or often enough so he'll probably go there again, and his daughter's going to have the ability to call him on the phone and say, "Hey, he's here again," and then the father goes in there to have a confrontation with him, and potentially a violent confrontation. Now, just think about this: it's a small community, right? The guy probably did see posts about what took place. He's probably reading it, and he probably maybe even viewed last night's show. So now he's going to react in two ways. Either one, he's never going to show up there again. He's going to hide his ass. Or two, he's going to go into the restaurant and try to mellow it out. Maybe there's multiple reasons. This is like the Monty Python skit with the Spanish Inquisition. He goes in there, if you remember the skit, he says, we have 3 things, and then they gives 4, and he says, 4 things. So it's kind of funny. But guy might go into the restaurant. He might go there not knowing what took place at all and be caught completely off guard. He might go in there trying to mellow out the situation, which might be a dangerous thing to do. You better hang out for a couple months, or according to last night, better not go in there for 9 years, because if the guy sees you within 9 years, you're going to be in trouble. Maybe go in there in 10 years. Maybe the 9 years is when he'll cool out. Or he'll go in there ready for an escalation, and he'll be prepared for an escalation, and it'll be a battle that most people in that restaurant better know what's going to take place. They better put a picture on the wall, like in the Wild West, of the guy that actually started the whole thing and the father. Put both pictures up on the wall, and if you see one of them, you better be ready to move. You better move your chair to the exit door so you're closer to the exit. And if you have the second guy come in there, you better get off of your chair and hightail your ass out of there, because you don't know what's going to transpire, because both people are in there. So is there a place that you want to avoid? And Louisiana now is a place I won't go to. So I'll put a circle around it on the map, and I ain't going there. Sorry, guy, I ain't going to Louisiana. It was a bad. You don't want to do tourists. Oh, let me see. Hey, this is Dave Darren, and this is Omar, I'm going to guess. Am I right?
You certainly are, yeah. I managed to keep up this evening.
Oh, cool.
Not that it's late either.
Yeah, how's it going, Omar? It's late, and I appreciate you calling during this late time. Oh, no, it's not late now. We're doing an afternoon show. It's early.
Yeah, it's only about 7:20 in the evening for me.
Okay.
Just that I was working yesterday, so I was completely tired. And, by the time you come on air, even though it was earlier, last two shows I've managed to miss. So how is things going?
Hey, not too bad. Did you happen to catch last night's show at all, or did you play?
No, I didn't. I caught the thread.
Oh,
That's the thing. I picked up on the thread, and I thought, well, hang on a minute, what's going on here? This sounds a bit weird.
Yeah.
And then I thought about it, and I read all the comments down, and it sort of took me back a few years ago. I think I uploaded it on the show's Facebook page, that I witnessed an incident that was similar. Now, I'm not coming from any angle. I just read something, I absorbed it, and I related to a couple of incidents that I've had in my life personally. And I can get it, and I understand it. The only thing I can turn around and say is that, sometimes it's right to act in the spur of the moment when it's warranted. Yeah?
Okay.
I haven't got an issue with that. What I have got an issue with, and I don't want to go into my personal life because it's not for me to put out all over whoever's listening, but I can tell you, definitely hand on heart, I came to a real low point about 4 years ago, probably the lowest point in my life, not because I was down and out, not because I was sort of the underdog, quite the opposite. I was the man there. And I flipped, and 5 minutes of going rage, seeing red, as we say here, cost me dearly. Really cost me dearly. It cost me physically, mentally, financially. It cost my freedom for a period of time. It caused me to... Those 5 minutes of craziness flipped every damn thing that was good for me in my life for that rage. Yeah. Obviously, hindsight's a good thing once you've managed to look back and reflect on it. And again, this particular incident, again, I'm not going to go into it. It wasn't, I didn't kill anyone. It wasn't those extremes that you hear of murder, rape, anything like that. Bollocks to that. That's not my character. But it could have got very close to harming people, mortally, literally, if you want to put it that way, if you get what I mean. Again, fill in the blanks. Thankfully, I went through the due process and I was found not guilty on both charges, and I let out. But I tell you what, it effed up my life.
Yeah.
For months and months and months, I couldn't do anything. I had quite a good business going. Lost the roof over my head.
Wow.
I lost my dignity. I lost my ability to earn. I lost my freedom. What bigger thing than all I urge is anyone that's even contemplating doing something stupid like that, and I say it is stupid ultimately because there are many other ways and means to deal with that scenario and situation without putting yourself at risk, and that's what it boils down to. There's an old saying here in England, if you can't do the crime, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime.
Right.
And I know it's a cliched thing, But really, I urge people to think twice. Is it effing worth it? You know, is any arsehole worth it? Again, I wouldn't say leave it alone. The way I deal with this particular scenario is I find out what the chap said. Now, harking back to this incident that happened in central London, I was just having a beer, man. I work with a lot of Chinese people. I was near Chinatown. I'd just gone to an office to get my next week's work, and I'd done that, so I've hit up a Chinese restaurant on the way home. Let's go and grab a couple of beers, which I did. And it was a nice day. It was a good atmosphere. Usually, you go into a pub in central London in the summer. It's full of people from all over the place, not just people that live here like yourself. So this one dude sitting in the corner, I would gather he was Eastern European, maybe Russian. Very arrogant-looking bastard. You could just tell the vibe off of him. And as I said in my little post, these two kids, maybe 9 at the age of 11 or 12, boy and a girl, they're probably brother and sister, just larking around. And then suddenly, out of anywhere, I don't want to scream down it, I'll make everyone deaf, but in the most guttural, horrible, nasty bastard way, he's turned around and gone, "Shut up! Get the fuck out of here! Mm-hmm. You two, bastard!" Like that. And I just looked, and straight away, inside me, this nuclear rage. When your mouth tastes metallic, it's the adrenaline and the cortisol coming in. And they weren't even my children, but I was so affected by that. My first thought was engage, and it was literally thought to arm would have been milliseconds, and I just saw a spare chair sitting there, and I thought, you know what, I don't want to swear. Maybe other people listen to this time of day that are younger and don't want profanity, but I'll tell you what, I was about to lift that chair, and then I stopped. I thought, well, hang on a minute, if I do that, how much trouble am I going to get into? And sometimes the parents will jump in and say, "What did you do that for? Blah, 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 you're starting all this." So I go to leave it. But within the space of about a minute of that, a lady came round and sort of hurriedly rushed them off. And this guy was sitting there with a real arrogant, smug look on his face. So if you want to weigh up what you're talking about yesterday, relating to this particular story, you don't know the level of nastiness this individual used. Yeah, again, I wouldn't say pull a 9 on him and go and pop a couple in him or whatever. That's just that's not what we're talking about here. And if you're going to go to resort to something like that, then you know what, you deserve everything you get after that. As far as I'm concerned, you took the choice. But as to turn around and say that you wouldn't have words with the individual. Now again, you've got to read between the lines. Having words with the individual is if you see this bloke again and your daughter's there with you and you just walk up to him like a man, but just keep your poker face and then tell him, "Listen, dude, what happened there?" Just give him the opportunity to explain. Do you understand what I mean?
Oh,
there's another thing that I'm quite... We're going to talk about mindset and how you can not influence, but how does your minds and thoughts affect you. So I'm going to little tag on to next week's program as well. And it works. It's called psychology, and you've got to look up and down what the other person is at and what he's doing and where you're at. And you always have to keep checkmate. You can't let them lead you into this, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of arseholes out there on this planet that will draw you into some sort of a conflict. And when they're done and dusted with you, they couldn't give a toss about you. You're gone, you're done, you're sitting in that cell, you're looking at a charge or whatever, and they couldn't care less, they're laughing. Believe me, there are dickheads out there like that. What you don't want to be is you don't want to become part and parcel of their prey. That is not the way to deal with things. The way to deal with things is don't let it go, but do it in a very sensible way.
Yeah, how do you control... let me ask you this question, because we have a program here that my wife actually watches called Snapped. And it's people, and you watch the program, and they look like people like you and I on a normal day where they're going to work, they come home, they play a musical instrument, they do a radio podcast like I do. They go out there and play with their dog, but there's built up anger in them that builds up, and it hits a boiling point, and then suddenly they snap. Now, how do you diffuse that? Like, when you wake up do you need mental health, or do you wake up in the morning and just say, you know what, shit's going to happen to me today, and you know what, am I going to deal with it?
You see, again...
How do you deal with it? How do you deal with it on a daily basis?
I don't know. I haven't got all the answers there. I certainly don't claim to have them. All I can do is turn around and say how I safeguard myself from encountering these situations. And it's, number one, it starts with making a choice that you want to be that person. Because you're going to let yourself go crazy and mental at all times and just react as anyhow. You're not in control yourself, Even it says... You know, Shakespeare said it, master thyself. You know, Jesus Christ said it, you know, master thyself. Confucius said it, master thyself. Are all these people talking a load of crap, or are they talking a load of sense over centuries? Your whole idea, you've got to master your emotions. If you don't, you're at the beck and call of every Tom, Dick and Harry that wants to try and pull your plonker. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
And what are you then? You're nothing. You're a puppet. You're a marionette. You've got other things and people and situations pulling your strings. That's not the sign of a strong individual, is it? That's a sign of a weakling, if you ask me.
Yeah.
I'm only saying this for experience. That at the end of the day, sometimes I was right in getting angry at people and bursting out at them the way I did maybe years ago. But over the course of time, I've just realised and decided that that's just not the way to forward. And even if you have got a beef with someone or whatever or something, number one is don't let things get people, things and situations get to you if it's not important. If it's a life or death situation that encounters you or a close person, or say there's somebody robbing an old lady down the street, as many dickheads do, if you run after him and bash him up, I ain't got a problem with that, at the end of the day. That's not something I wouldn't. And even in a court of law, you'd turn around and say, look, I saw a woman getting mugged. This son of a bitch crackhead just punched her, took her bag and run. I had the capacity and you know, the fitness and the physical and the mental foresight to run after the son of a bitch and hit him, and bang, I've kicked him a few times, broken a few bones and all that, pinned him down, got someone to call the cops, and then they've arrived. Yeah, I might have used excessive force, but in the context, you're doing the right thing in my eyes. Yeah, so the law. I'll take a chance with the law if it comes to that. However, what I won't do is I won't go over and above my station to try and inflict that sort of situation on someone else. But that's called being a bully at the end of the day. And you know what a bully is? A bully is basically an individual who has something so severely lacking within their own heart and soul that they've got to project their nastiness onto other people. This might have been the case of the man that spoke badly to the young girl, because I certainly don't think that's a good thing to do. Another thing is, people got to realise one thing. Try and be the person that has manners. If you've got manners in life, then you're always going to be on the right side of things. Even if you've got to act in a negative way afterwards, that you've been polite and you've given and exhausted every chance. But don't say manners is, oh, I told you so, or I warned you. That's bollocks. All that is that's you being a bully. Yeah? The real true manners is keep yourself together. Know that you've got the power to deal with it by all means. Have the means and methods to deal with a situation if it comes to it, but don't instigate it. Always try and diffuse it and walk away and try and get a satisfactory answer to that problem. You don't know. If the guy, I mean, in my mind, straight away, when I read that, I thought, excuse me, I was going to swear there, but I thought, I witnessed something like that a few years ago, and the disgusting manner that this man talked to these two children I was a stranger, but all I wanted to do was react in a very bad, harmful way towards this individual. Thank goodness I didn't, because I'd have probably got, being in central London, the cops would have been on me within about 2 minutes, even at a minute. I would have got arrested for, what you call assault and battery in the US, or grievous bodily harm is what we call it in the law over here. I'd have been looking probably about a 3-year sentence. If it wasn't proved, I would have gone on trial to court. It would have messed many a day up for me and my future. And I came very close to that 4 years ago, just through seeing red and acting in a very negative way. Wouldn't be, I'm not the biggest of guys at all, but I tell you what, it was like I was possessed by a demon at the time. That's the anger rage level. But we're not going to go into the esoteric. The demon is me, and the angel is me. That's what we must all realise. You are the demon when you want to be. You are the angel when you want to be. Don't try and test yourself.
It's
at the end of the day, people put into. Go on.
It's sort of easy to escalate a situation, because to tell you the truth, when I played back last night's show, I noticed that even in the conversation I was having yesterday, my face as the show progressed was getting redder and redder because my hostility was building up. And what is it? Is it something that we need to control in youth? Because I'll tell you, when I was younger, because I'm 61 now, when I was 20, 30, and 40, I would be more easily angered and enraged a lot quicker than I am now, because I guess I've lived longer, or I've mellowed out, or the testosterone is less in my body than it used to be. But at a younger age, I don't know. Do we need to? No one's taught this in school, or at least maybe they.
No, they're not. But the thing is, again, I've explored many avenues. Now, I used to be in the military for 9 years. So, again, when you talk about the controlled aggression where it's needed, I'm very familiar with that, yeah? Sometimes when you're out in City Street, this is why a lot of service people end up doing crazy things, because they get into depression, they get into that. No, I think if you say in a nutshell what one needs to do is you need to safeguard you, yes. And we ain't talking no bullshit, oh, you're stepping in my space, blah, 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 you told me that I don't like the fact that you vote Democrat or Republican. That's a load of bollocks, man. That's all man-made shit. At the end of the day, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about protecting your own spaces. Have a barrier there in your mind to think, you know what, I'm not going to get engaged with this. When you said the first thing about waking up in the morning and thinking, what do? Do you know what? I wake up and I think, you know what, I'm not going to intentionally harm any animal or human being. That's my first thought in the morning. I don't think about having a good or bad day. I just go with the flow. When I further meditate into the situation, if I've got, let's say, an interview, then I'll psych myself up the night before and do some reading or just take a quiet walk through the park. There's a park where I need to. Bottom line is, what you all need to do is people need to start incorporating a little bit of, not selfish, but personal me time. You know, go out for a walk with your dog if you've got a dog. Go into an open space, go for a swim somewhere. Just relax, go and read a book for 20 minutes, half an hour while you're having a cup of coffee in the morning, away from everyone. All these methods and tools are there to take your mind away from acting reactively and thinking about it. And that's what it boils down to at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The way our mind is geared up now, the way society is geared up now, the way things are geared up now is we are all told that everyone should have an instant reaction to everything. Like this damn stupid bit of, 3-inch by 2.5-inch screen that we've all got plugged to our effing faces every day. Can't you see that that's their design to make you stupid? So when you react, first of all, to a comment, I'm party to doing it myself. I do like to throw the cat amongst the pigeons, so to speak, sometimes. But then I find myself, and I've acknowledged that I'm going down that road now, and I shouldn't be doing it because we live in a society now where instantly there should be a thing, You want an Uber or you want a taxi or a lift, bang, press a button on your phone, it's there within 10 minutes here. Whereas before, you had to either go out in the street and hail one before, the internet, modern technology, mobile phones. You had to go out and hail one from the high street, which could have meant a 10-minute walk to a taxi rank. You had to ring what we call a minicab here by phone and then wait 10 or 15 minutes. We all expect things to happen like that now. If I want to go to Pizza Hut, I just bring up the app and I say, right, I'm going to have a double, whatever, meat feast. I want some garlic bread and I want some Pepsi and some Ben and Jerry's. Bang, put the order through. My card details are already on there. Press the button. Do you see what I'm getting at now?
Oh, yeah.
Everything is warranting now a reaction in the immediate.
Yeah,
you live your life like that. You start living your real life as opposed to your digital life like that. But things are going to start effing up in a big way, and they are.
They are. Yeah, you're clearly right about that.
They are. They absolutely are.
It's interesting. I lived in Japan for a while, and you watch some of the old TV shows like that TV show called Kung Fu. I'm sure you had it out there with David Carradine, right? Remember that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So they're always taught defense. But they're always taught like a meditation type of thing to control their mind and control a situation before you react to it. But you're always taught that you have the ability within you to react and defend yourself and diffuse a situation. But I don't think we're ever taught that in school. For everything that we're taught, I don't know because I haven't been to school in a lot of years. I'm 61, so how can I talk about what you're taught?
My biggest gripe with school was I got on quite well at school. There were certainly subjects that were taught in the curriculum, and especially the fact that I went to high school between the sort of the mid-80s towards 1989. I left, and again the school I went to used to be an old boys' grammar school, so the standard of education was quite a high standard of education. And it was very sort of regimentally run. A lot of people, their heads of departments were ex-military. You'd never get away with that in this shitty PC time because at the end of the day now, everything's like touchy-feely. Do you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's not a bad thing it was like that. There was discipline there as well. There was a sense of, pride in yourself. You had to dress well, your uniform, your shoes had to be polished, and you had to buy... You used to have like 3-4 different sets of PE kit for your physical education, one for your rugby and then your football shorts shorts and a pair of rugby boots. And yes, it was harder. Then times people weren't earning a load of money, especially my family. But at the end of the day, they found the money to do that, and that instills in you a sense of pride for yourself. Now, every little son of a bitch there hits the age of 11 and he wants what? His PS4, PS5, his Xbox, he wants a £300 phone, do you know what I mean? He wants to have a £180 pair of Nike Airs or whatever on. It's just a bullshit society, and it's geared up that way. It's geared up to put you in competition with everyone else, but no one's the winner. Do you see what I mean? Because the winner's sitting on top of you, dictating the situation. That's what you want to call it, without getting into conspiracy theories. That's the way that society's been geared up now. So you're continuously battling yourselves amongst the low-level millions and the masters. I don't call them masters, but let's just use that term for the sake of using it. The masters of this world, the 1%, you know, the multi-billionaires, the gold list, whatever you want to call it. They're the ones setting the agenda. I don't want to be part of their agenda. Screw you. I'm an independent man. I don't believe in organised religion. I don't believe in organised politics or anything like that. Yes, there are good things in all the things that I've mentioned, but I am not part of it. I never have been, and I never will be. And for that reason only, because it takes your humanity away from you slowly, 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 bit by bit, drip, drip, drip. It's like a poison going into your veins. And by the time you realise you've only got half a day or hours to live, it's too late. And that's what's happening in around us now as human beings. You know, Tony Moreno mentioned this as well. Christine certainly mentioned something, which is why I'm thinking I'm just sort of kind of keeping to that subject, but dovetailing certain elements of everything that your last three guests have had on. Because in my eyes, it's a concerned effort to destroy things as they are, so that somebody will ultimately have control of you. Look at your phone now. It's tracked everywhere you go. Yeah, if there was a bad incident that happened to you, we can't find the data. But it's not there for your purpose. It's there because somebody else wants to control you 24/7. Does that make sense to you at all now, where I'm getting at?
Yeah, I'm listening to you, and my audience is listening to you as well. So good points are being made here. Do you think that it's it's funny because I live periodically in the New York City area. I live in the Phoenix area, and there's big cities in where I live. 5 million people in Phoenix, like 13 million in New York City. And when I see the population clustered so tightly, there is a hostility because of the being bumped in the street. You get on the road. When I'm in Phoenix, because we don't have a mass transit system here, you get on the road, you get in traffic jams, and literally the speed limit is 65, but you can only go 11 miles an hour. And people people get so irritated. This is what happens. You try to get on the highway, and the person behind the traffic doesn't let you in. They intentionally speed up to not let you in. So the hostility mounts. Do you think
this is exactly the same here? I mean, if you start driving in rush hour time, or even there's different areas of town, let's not sort of mince anything there. Certain areas of town are worse here in London than that. But it's a lot more mishmashed together here now. You could be going down a really sort of posh area, and then suddenly a half a mile down the road, you're going to get like real sort of horrible place, horrible place. And it's not always a play. I always say one thing, it's a jokey way of saying, people turn around and say, for example, Wembley's, I don't like Wembley, it's a bit of a shithole, it's a horrible place. And, there's an old retort to that we use here saying, there's nothing wrong with Wembley, mate, it's only the people in it. So, do you see what I mean? It's not the built-up urban area, it's the type of people and what they find acceptable and how they've sort of been geared to think. Now, it's not all their fault, but it is, because for every single idiot that turns around and says, he came from a bad background, he had a shit upbringing, he was this, he was that. There was just as many other examples of people that have actually made a successful thing out of their lives. They've been pillars of their community, or they've been peers in their society. They've excelled at business or sports or music, or actors or producers. Something they've done. Basically, what they've done is they've come the same way as this horrible, killer or whatever you want to say, thug, woman beater, whatever, and this bastard's gone down. And then another contemporary that had exactly the same situations has done that. So to me, it's ultimately about making a choice. We can't all turn around and say that people from one area are bad or good. Reality doesn't work like that if you think about it. Yeah, people make a choice. Ultimately, to me, it boils down to making that choice and then to persist in making a certain type of choice. If you make bad choices, then 9 out of 10 times, the results are just going to snowball and escalate.
Do you think things have become more violent? Because everyone says the grass is greener on the other side. When you were younger, in the 60s and 70s, things were better. For instance, when I went to high school, and high school now seems to be different. When I went to high school, there were no guards there. There was no security system where you get scanned for weapons. When we had an argument with someone, it was actually a fist fight, which we called a fair one. We went outside, we had a fight. Someone lost, someone won. And then usually the anger dissipates pretty quickly. You had it out, and then you can even be friends with that guy eventually. Now today, you can't go. It seems like it's more violent. Is society now more violent, or am I naive in thinking that?
No, I think you're right on that count, because again, you hear this bandied around all the public and people, the psychologists and political and social commentators that say it's got more violent, and other people say on the flip side, oh no, it's not that it's got more violent, it's just that now in the 21st century, in 2019, we've got access to instant information level stuff that would have taken a week to filter down and would have only stayed. Let's say you live in, I'll take my country as an example, I live in London, something violent happens in Birmingham, somebody gets stabbed. You wouldn't necessarily read about it in the local paper unless it was a very horrendous case, in which case it would come on like the evening news for a little bit, but usually it'd be confined to local areas. So yeah, I can say there's that aspect of it as well. But again, no, I don't say that. I think just people are getting more. There's what did I say in my post? There's a distinct lack of humanity, patience, understanding, and it's all in a negative way. Me. Now again, my belief system. Some people know what it is. It's very misconstrued. That's for another show. But I don't believe in black and white as such. I don't believe in it. There's a lot of things that are, okay. I'll tell you my low limit of black and white is a rapist is a rapist is a rapist. There's no excuse for being a rapist, an aggressive rapist. And when I mean you're going to aggravate and kidnap people and doing that, in my eyes you're a scumbag. Yeah, I couldn't really care less if you stop breathing. It's not a very Christian attitude to take, but I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Muslim. I'm not a Jew. At the end of the day, I don't believe in these Abrahamic religions, although they all have their good little tenets there, and I certainly wouldn't diss anybody for doing it, but that's not my cup of tea. Hasn't been for about 30 years, at least. Yeah, if not, probably I was born thinking like a thinker. So at the end of the day, we can't blame that, but we can blame the breakdown of people's attitudes and the more violence into the fact that now it's been pushed upon them. And look at who's doing the violence. There's a certain demographic. Yes, you get the odd case of somebody who's, like a love affair's gone wrong and his wife's been seeing somebody else and he goes and murders the other person and his wife. Like the O.J. Simpson scenario. That is very rare, but the most common amounts of violence that happen here now in this country, in my surroundings, happen from postcode wars, young gangs because they're scared, mainly, the demographic is of an ethnic one. Let's not go into what ethnicities, but I'm sure if you did a little bit of research, you could see that. But it's also the white kids in the areas, because a certain demographic thinks that they're scared, and they've grown up to know that the only protection they've got in that area is carrying a knife. Yeah? So at the end of the day, it's either me or him. We should never get to that stage. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes the end result is bollocks. The end result is it's fucking happening now. Sorry, I swear I should put $1 in the box now for you. But right, what the end result is the same. It's become that people are highly strung and very scared, genuinely scared of their life. So they've got to carry something, but it's either them or somebody else, and it can happen in the heat of the moment like that. Or again, the more common thing is that it's rivalry, it's drugs, it's gangs, it's money. That's what it's down to. And who do you blame that? Bad parenting, bad upbringing, a bit of everything. I think I can't nail it down to one scenario. But I think it's a bit of everything.
And that's the
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, that's the complexity. Is there's so many avenues to protract the development of this type of personality and this type of person that you mentioned so many avenues there of a destructive personality, right? Environment, parenting, it's all of it.
Do you know the difference, Dave? And I've looked this up for my own personal reasons, but that's for another show. Dave?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I just had a click.
Oh, no, I'm still here. No.
That's all right, no worries. Well, we're not talking about governmental issues or UFOs, so maybe, I don't know.
No, you're okay. No, we do the UFO shit tonight.
Right.
We do that tonight. So today
Cool.
we're just doing.
I'm going to try and stay up for that. But listen, what I was going to say, very interesting reading for me was to actually start looking into various tests that are given by the National Health Service, and it's like it's just personality tests and all that. And I started reading a lot recently, well, I say recently, in the last 18 months, about what the personality of a psychopath is and what is a sociopath. And I really astounded myself by reading it, and I won't go into depth of detail now because that's for another time. But a lot of these personality traits that we keep calling people is a psychopath, he's a sociopath, he's this, a psychopath, he's a... So no, people don't understand and get to the bottom of what an actual psychopath is. A psychopath doesn't necessarily have to be a Charles Manson, right? You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or a Unabomber.
Uh-huh.
Look at people like that. These people are definitely, they've got psychopathic traits, and their psychopathy leads them to have that. But again, if you look at certain very, very successful businessmen and politicians, they haven't gone out and killed anyone or raped anyone or murdered anyone. But what they've actually done is they've used all the traits, about 90% of what a textbook psychopath is, to get to where they are. So again, one can always question the fact that is it a good thing being a psychopath or a bad thing? Now, if you want to take the textbook, copybook, front page headline version of a psychopath, then they just use that word for effect. That's rubbish, in my opinion. And my research and my opinion is based on the research that I've done. It's quite extensive research, reading various psychology books by various authors, watching programs by various medical doctors on the makeup of the human brain and how that affects your decisions and what it is. So again, I'm not talking out of my arse, as they say in England. I'm talking through the fact that I personally researched it for personal reasons. Again, I won't go into why, but it's a very personal thing for me to research these avenues. And I have come to the conclusion that at the end of the day, most of these people that are going out doing the horrendous violence and that, they're not psychopaths. Psychopath is a very sort of a unique and distinct personality trait. Now, a sociopath, where the two overlap, is somebody who probably has 70% of the characteristics of a textbook psychopath. But the only difference is, Dave, that a psychopath has that from day one. Do you understand what I mean? Mm-hmm. He'll be the 5-year-old kid that kicks his 3-year-old sister and then pretend he didn't do anything. He's the one that'll beat the cat, strangle the cat. Yeah? You see what I mean?
Okay.
He's the one when he's older, try and screw up his schoolmates, or steal something and blame it on, poor old Lowry in the corner, and she's a good, Bible-loving Christian girl. And this mother, excuse me, I'm not going to swear again, but this little mother, he's like if you want to call it a Michael Myers personality, yeah? It's there, it's in the DNA, it's in the genes, he's effed up, there's not much. But that is what you call a violent psychopath, extreme murdering, the type that ends up being a serial killer. Richard Kuklinski, who was a film about him, he was, I think, the most, I wouldn't say decorated in a good way, but he had over 200 kills. He was a mafia hitman in the 70s, and he was never a made man because he was Polish by origin, but he literally had 200 murders that he was put away for when he was executed, and there's a very good documentary about Mr. Kuklinski, and a really good doctor they both allowed each other to come into that scenario and talk to them. I mean, again, I'm sort of going on the lines of what Christine was talking about, and if you watch this, this is an interview on steroids, and the funny thing is a lot of people have mentioned that the actual doctor who had the cojones to go and interview him over a session a couple of times, and it's all documented now. It's if you look up the Iceman interviews, and I urge everybody to watch that because it's a very informative character study on the individual and on both. But sort of about a halfway point through the whole process, it starts dawning on you that Kuklinski's a nasty bastard. He's killed a lot of people, and he's like that doing it when he's a kid. He's got no remorse at all whatsoever. Just that's it. Not crazy, but focused, mad psychopath. Evil bastard, violent. But the thing is, when you start looking at the doctor who's analysing him and that, oh my goodness, the doctor there he's got something about him too. And you think halfway through this interview, Dave, and that's the astonishing thing, it sort of dawned on me that if this doctor in another life didn't become this real high-profile medical doctor that works with psychology and is, works on the human brain patterns and everything, just his line of questioning and his one-on-one with this man that's killed 200, he had no fear, for goodness sake. So then can you see when it becomes a more interesting subject to see that what you are generally labelled as one thing doesn't necessarily have to be that one thing, because we all know that the media and everyone out there like to label words, Mm-hmm. That's bullshit. That's their agenda. What people, or what myself, somebody like me, likes to do is I like to throw away what's on the table, and I like to explore for myself and then find out reasoning where it's suitable for me to say yes or no, I believe in this or I don't. And I make no apologies for that. That's me. That's the way I am. And I find it works best for me that way in my life.
Yeah, you know what you brought up is really an important point, I think. You mentioned that some of the most successful businessmen could have 90% of the traits of what the psychopath has, right? You said you studied that. So it's an interesting switch that could take place in any individual that is not aware of this situation. Where, for instance, anyone could flip on a dime. I've become angry at moments. And I've been able to withdraw myself from that moment and say, do you want to pay the penalty and the cost of doing what's in your mind right now? Everyone's got something in their mind of multiple ways that they can deal with a situation. And if they don't control that switch, because we're still wired basically, we're still wired as animals. We've got a survival instinct. We've got an instinct.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So we're all
and
wired.
That survival instinct itself. Let me just quickly go back to what I was mentioning before. The marked difference between a psychopath and a sociopath is generally, whether you're a violent psychopath or you're somebody like people would like to say Tony Blair, our ex-prime minister, is a psychopath, and studying his character and the way he is and everything, I would agree. Some of the people like Philip Green and top businessmen, they've got that. But the thing is, you must differentiate now. Let's take away the violent psychopath part away, because that affects a small minority of people that are diagnosed with psychopathy, right?
Okay. Uh-huh.
Or what's the actual? There's another term for it now. They don't call it psychopathy. They call it I forget. Antisocial personality disorder, ASPD. Because again, they've had to reclassify it. Because again, people that have that social personality disorder might not necessarily be very violent people that have indulged in violence, but they share 90% of the traits of it. So psychopath covers the whole thing. So if you had a graph from, let's say, 0 at the top to or 100 at the top to 0 at the bottom, if we saw that and the top one was violent psychopath and the bottom one was, basic level psychopathy, yeah? So can we all picture this graph now? Yeah, 1 to 100 in a straight line, like a tall building. Top being 100 being the most murderous, crazy bastard you've ever met. And you'd never want to come across, it needs to be locked up. And at the bottom, it would be your ballpark, average person with an antisocial personality disorder. Now, if you take the cutoff point at about 75% of that, 0 to 100, the top 25 tier would be the Pol Pots, the Stalins, the Hitlers of the world. Do you see what I mean? The Ladens of the world. That kind of calculating, I don't give a shit, that's my agenda and I'm going to do it to harm anybody. Most people aren't like that when they suffer from antisocial personality disorder. But if you had another scale right next to it from 0 to 100, you've got something called a sociopath. Now, if you were to tally the two graphs up together, the two lines of 0 to 100, somewhere along the middle you draw a line across it to connect the two. Because sociopathy, from what I've studied, is a learned behaviour. You weren't the kid that was violent to your schoolmates. You weren't the child that strangled your cat or your hamster or your dog. Yeah? You see what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
You were really good. You were a good kid. You played with your younger sister and you bought her some flowers, some daisies from the garden. Your mum and dad said you were a creature, you were an angel, a little cherub. And, you were fine. And then let's say at the age of 16 or 17, you felt you're a very emotional, nice person. Yeah, everyone liked you. Sometimes you were tread down on and talked down on by people at that age. And then something inside you flipped. You had a girlfriend that you loved. You really, really liked her. And she treated you like shit and she went off with somebody. And then for the next 3 or 4 months, you were berated, you were mocked, you were made fun of. and then something deep inside you changed.
So, in other words, that
inside you, Dave, let me bring this emotion out.
Okay.
Something inside you changed so much that you recognized what the world was really about, and you recognized that your kindness and your emotion and your being a nice person and being straight wasn't going to cut it anymore. And then you made the choice, you know what, this is never, ever going to happen to me again. And then from that point, you change. You don't by call become an evil person that starts chopping cats up, because you're not a violent psychopath. But if you have to deal with somebody during the course of your way and they do you some harm, then you will take no, it'll never happen again, because seared and burned in your conscience is how you were abused and how you were taken advantage of. And somewhere in your core psyche, in your causative mind, in not your forward-thinking brain, but deep inside your conscious, you said, no more, I'm not going to take shit ever again from anyone. Then you start making the moves like that. Yeah. Then you say, right, this is my barrier. I'm not going to take any effing shit from anybody anytime soon. And then you progress on that. You haven't quite progressed to the level, and you'll never top it off to be. You may or may not. You see, once that door is open, but deep down, you're not that. You're not the born DNA genetic type psychopath. It's a learned behaviour. That's the major difference. The results can be exactly identical. The path to them doing the ultimate worst or harm they can, or if they choose to go that way, can be the exact same as a DNA psychopath. But some people say that's a more dangerous person, the sociopath, because at the end of the day, they're not genetically inherently like that in their mind and psyche. They're a good person deep down somewhere. But some of this, the life, the filth that has come around their soul, the dejection, the berating by people, the bullying, the nastiness, the evil has managed to coat their entire good self inside. And then suddenly they're the same. You can still crack it, get them to become that person, but again, it comes down to personal choice. So I hope that sort of clarifies a little bit of what I've learned about these two aspects.
No, it certainly does. The learned psychopath is a very interesting thing, because I guess as you've progressed via the life that you've been living, and the movement into being more of a psychopath type of person, I guess at some point you're in control at some level. Then as you progress through life, if you start losing some of that control and moving that psychopath learned level to a higher and higher level, the lack of control can overcome your control, and then it becomes a challenge to ever regain that control, right?
But you see, Dave, I'm going to kind of add to that. I'm not going to disagree wholly on what you said, but I am in one aspect, that's all.
Yeah.
You must never think of a psychopath or a sociopath as someone that is not in control. Control is the name of the game from day one, whichever way you come into this level of thinking. So that's a very misunderstood thing that people go. People, when they go nuts, when you say somebody's flipped out and he's gone into becoming that, that's something in itself that's completely different. That's going to be on another side of the road, right? Because people can progress into that Michael Douglas character in Falling Down, which is, again, one of my favourite films. Mm-hmm. It's a good character study. I loved watching The Joker. But again, the Joker is not a psychopath. He's not a sociopath. He displays it. He's not a psychopath, right? People say, oh, he's a psychopath. That whole film with Joaquin Phoenix, it was brilliant. It was a very slow-moving film, but I'll tell you the power of that film. A week or 2 weeks later, it was like I was sitting on the bus going somewhere, or going out doing my shopping, and suddenly this scene would drop in from it, just out of the blue, and I'd think, this film is so powerful because it starts dropping into you a few weeks later when you start thinking about it in that way. But again, I would not class those two characters, Michael Douglas in Falling Down and Joaquin Phoenix as Joker, or Arthur Fleck as that. They're very complex people. Michael Douglas's character, for one, is just a normal working man that has everything go against him. Everything that could possibly go wrong in one day starts going wrong bit by bit by bit, and he effing loses it. Yeah, and he's justified. I mean, when I watched that in the cinema, I was actually with him on that one. I was like, you poor bastard, you didn't deserve any of this. And isn't the world an effing horrible place? But again, when you sort of analyse that film and break it down to the different levels of where he did, he got sacked and he wasn't allowed access to his kid. Then he wants to go and get a burger from a shop, doesn't he? And it's just flipped from the breakfast menu to the lunch menu, and he gets pissed. So that is something that all of us can experience at any given time. It's just a level of things like a domino effect going wrong. The only complaint I have with that film and in real life is at every given point you have to cultivate the strength of mind and character to turn around and say, listen, I don't want this to go any further. Fuck it. Excuse my language. That's $2 I owe you in the swear, didn't you?
Right, $2, yeah.
Right. I think, sorry, I don't want this to go on anymore. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go take a walk along the beachfront where I used to live a while ago, a nice 3-mile walk back to where I live near in Bournemouth. And it was against on an evening like this, there'd be the howling wind and the waves lapping. But that would be my getting in touch with myself and nature and letting it go. And then right before I get home, I'd probably pop into the local pub and bar and have a couple of beers and a whiskey. And then that's it. I'd go home and I'd sleep, man. Go and probably put on Coast to Coast AM, which is one of my lifelong habits. So that's my way of relaxation and doing it.
Yeah.
But
well, Omar,
the scary thing is, Dave, the scary thing is we are all capable of losing it after having 1, 2, 3, 4 knockdowns in one day. And who knows what the scenario is going on in an individual's life is. They're not going to tell you everything, are they? Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. And I tried to learn a little bit more about the experience so I could understand what my caller was feeling at the moments when he was feeling it. So I tried to do that. I also tried to understand his feeling, and I tried to make him understand the consequences of reacting a certain way. And I think he took a little bit of that knowledge with him. I'm not an expert in this field. By the way, you're very good at what you've studied, by the way. And I appreciate you calling to share that with us. It was intense and it was well worded. You should have your own radio show about this topic, Omar.
Oh, brother, I'm just a. Oh, sorry, I'm going to get a bit jestful
No,
there.
you're brilliant.
I was going to say the Sergeant Lincoln Osiris little phrase out of Tropic Thunder. Dude, I'm just a dude, playing another dude. No, I'm not really. This is just my jokey side coming out here. Look, really, man, the way I see it is, what can I do to give back in life? I haven't got $1 million to give everyone that's in a hardship or situation, and I probably wouldn't. I help people out. I like to gain knowledge in a load of avenues. I like to try and be a little bit better every day. Trust me, believe you, I'm not trying to preach to the converted here at the end of the day. It's a struggle for me to even be who I am today because it takes a lot of effort, and I certainly haven't won the battle, but I'm getting there, I'm winning day by day and bit by bit and piece by piece. After all, I'm just another fellow human being. I try not to judge people, which is difficult at times as well. It's very difficult being me. I try not to get angry and raged at things again, which is very difficult, me being me. But then what the hell is the point of me being alive if I was just a flipping automaton or a robot that had one natural setting? I'd just be one boring son of a bitch. Nobody wanted to talk to you. At the end of the day, I find varieties of spice of life. And, you want to try and do the best things you can. Not everyone's going to like what you say. Not everyone's going to like you. And I say F you to that because I'm that old now that I've realised that opinion doesn't matter to me. If somebody wants to try and physically harm me, there's ways and means I can deal with it. I won't go into that either. That's for a whole nother show. But I don't want to be that aggressive, nasty person. But sometimes, going back to the origination of why I called in, sometimes I just so related with this dude, man, when he was talking about his daughter. Because again, I'm not going to say, I had a similar thing happen with my daughter, even though she's got a partner, he's a good guy. And, she can look after herself. She's into her martial arts big time. But it just sort of really, it happened to me one day. I had a phone call about 11, 12 o'clock at night. This was just after the period of my, descent into madness. And I don't mean madness as in mental madness, but my life being flipped up. And let's just say I'd regained my freedom for about a month. And I wanted to act that day. But I couldn't. Yeah. I couldn't because I knew if I did, and I knew if I did what I really truly wanted to do on that night when she phoned me up and said, Dad, somebody's threatened me in the car when my boyfriend, Mike, and he's got a blade there. And straight away I saw red and I was about to go back and put a crossbow in the bay. You know what a crossbow is, don't you? Yeah?
Yeah, I do. Sure I do.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, I'm sure people that know what a crossbow is. Access to firearms is extremely difficult, but it's a lot more difficult than things like that. And at that sort of stage, I had an inventory of things, and I put down the boot of the car, I got in, and I thought, suddenly this voice inside me said, what the effing hell are you doing, man? You just got out of that. So I rang up and I said to her, listen, I said, I'm not being funny, I'm not going to take the pussy attitude here, but are you in any immediate danger now? No, they've gone. I said, are you in any danger tomorrow or the day after? Will they pull you up? She said, no, it's just my boyfriend. I said, if you effing are, I'm coming down, but you realise what you're going to make me do if you come down. Huh. And she said, oh, no, but she was in. I said, look, do you need me to call the old bill, which is another word for the coppers? No. I said, will this situation rear its head again? I guarantee you, 10 out of 10, if she'd have said, yes, I'm in further danger or I'm in a threat, I'll go and they'd be waiting for me. I'd have driven that 120 miles down to where she was with this crossbow in the back and other things, and you probably would not be talking to me now, yeah? The next time you'd be speaking to me is probably in about 2025. That was, do you see what I mean? Uh-huh. Again, I hark back to one thing, the gist of what I was saying, the main focus of the topic, according to yesterday's, even though I haven't listened to it, I will try and listen to it tomorrow. But, man, woman, just don't lose it. It ain't worth it. Just don't lose it. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do anything about it, yeah? But be a bit more discerning on how you take your actions, because believe you me, they have some serious repercussions. And I wouldn't want anyone who's got a half decent family set up going, who's got a partner, who's got a dog that they love, or the dog loves them and they love the dog, or they've got a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or I don't care, a mother or a father or a sister, and they're somewhat decent people. I wouldn't want anyone to endure the pain of staring at 4 frigging walls for 23 hours a day.
Yeah. When I had the
in 120 degree heat and everyone else is outside, right. But you don't know when you're getting out, if you're getting out. That in itself, if I can convey that feeling to people out there, that maybe having the thought of acting on their impulse, man, just that is the worst feeling in the world. And everything is on reverse. And you can't get through to people, then you got to deal with the shit that's where you are. That's a whole different kettle of fish, man. It's just not, it's not nice, That's the only way I can put it. It's not nice. It's not a good experience. Don't subject yourself to it.
When I was having a conversation yesterday, I was trying to think, am I lucky that I've never been in that type of a situation? I was trying to associate, I always try to put myself in other people's shoes or in their frame of mind. So now I don't have any kids, so maybe that complicates it, but I was trying to associate, now what would happen if someone came up to my wife in more of an aggressive vocal posture? How would I react to that? And since it's never happened to me, like I said, maybe I'm lucky that I haven't had that face-to-face conversation with that person that's angrily projecting their voice to my wife while I'm there. I was trying to think of myself being in that exact situation at that time, how I would react. And, to be quite honest, I'm not really 100% sure, because I have not been in that exact situation that he was in. I was trying to pull him into telling us more about it, but he just wouldn't come clean with that. I really wanted to understand, and I wanted to be more honest with myself than maybe I was, because I could not really pinpoint the moment of when I might flip. And there might be a moment when I might flip based upon what he experienced or what he was told. I don't think he was actually there.
Right, well, okay, I'm not advocating any behaviour like that at all. And again, I did start off by saying that if you are the instigator or you're a situation where you're just a crazy, hothead, rage-filled individual, I got no sympathy with you.
Right,
because
right.
I know what it feels like to be that individual. Yeah, so I'm not dissing anybody by saying that. But if you're going to go down that road, then you know what, mate, maybe it would take what happened to me to teach you not to do it again. Or do it in that way. However, I'm not an apologist either. I'm not a lie back and think of England type of guy. But at the end of the day, you have to be very discerning. Again, the situation is you could have everything going for you within that second, and suddenly that guy's mate turns up out of nowhere. Then you're almost dead, or you're dead. Do you want to take that chance? Always be the bigger and more thinking individual and try and diffuse the situation. Yeah. Sometimes you've got to look at it this way. Every crazy, rabid, barking dog that's walking down the street that decides to bark at you from across the road isn't worthy of a reaction, right? So at the end of the day, what I would do is I would certainly tell my daughter then, if not tomorrow, could say, right, listen, this ain't going to happen again. And I'll tell you the way I'm going to safeguard it by happening again. You're fucking, excuse my saying, that's $4 in the swear box. But sorry, I'm getting a bit carried away with that. But again, what I would do is I would suggest go and join something like Krav Maga or mixed martial arts, or something, and quite a defensive yet aggressive martial art. Then you're doing a positive thing. Then if it ever happens again, she'll smash the guy's nose in, bang, leave him there, walk away. Now, if a girl was to do that to a grown man, the cops ain't going to pull her up. But if I was to walk up to a grown man and smash his nose through in a diner, I'm going to get nicked. There's no two ways about it, mate. It doesn't matter whether my neighbourhood, I'm the neighbourhood gangster, and I got 50,000 people rolling deep behind me. You understand what I mean? That is bullshit, man. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, that is bullshit. Why jeopardise yourself for doing it? Yeah, if you turn the table again, if that same man had pulled a knife on my daughter at the counter and said, listen, you fucking little blah, 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 well, get out of my face, I don't care about anything, I'm going to slap you and slap her, then I'm telling you what, my crossbow's coming out. Mm-hmm. Do you see what I mean? There's different levels of it, yeah? But if the child was threatened, or any girl was threatened with a blade, or the man pulled a gun on her or something, you'd go there, I'd shoot them.
Oh,
done.
yeah. Well,
you put a gun on my daughter, I don't know where you're going to have it next time, done. And I'm not advocating doing that to the individual, so please don't take this the wrong way. But all I'm saying is there are certain levels of action that warrant a response. Now, according to this, if it's just the basic, the guy's been a prick, he's talked to the young girl like she's nothing, he's done that, I wouldn't even go so far as to say give the man a slap or nothing like that, as we say. I wouldn't even do that. But next time I'd see him, I'd know in my heart, you can project that. And we're going to talk about this in next week's show, or I'll call it about, you project that. Listen, when your faults and your attitude and your rage is being projected out. You're not going to do anything about it, but you're going to make 100% sure that when that guy walks away, if he ever effing dares to look funny again at this child or that, or do it to any other child, if you're going to do it, Dave, and I don't know whether the guy's listening in or not, you know how I do it? I do it on behalf of every other little child, or young lady, or young lad, or woman, if he's a woman beater. I would put the fear of fucking the devil in him. You know what I mean? And say, if you ever dare to do that again to anybody else, then it is a productive form of being aggressive. Do you see what I mean? I wouldn't take any physical action, but I guarantee you one thing, if you start working on it, you work on it, and I've got ways and means to do it. If you start projecting this inner chi, or whatever you want to call it, psyche, out to other people, they're going to know deep down that they'll feel you. Yeah, they'll get butterflies when you're coming towards them. They'll start shivering. Their backbone will go cold. And I got ways and means to make that, project that. Yeah, I got ways and means to project it. That's a totally different show. But again, number one, you must know that 100% the right is on your side, and you're not doing it out of being a bloody bully or a malicious man or some sort of a big-time gangster, because that's bullshit, man. That's bullshit. I've seen some of the biggest people around here in my neighbourhood, and I mean thugs and gangsters and really, really nasty people. Yeah, one of them ended up being beaten around the head with a baseball bat while he was on heroin in his head, and this was a real nasty bastard. The other guy I'm talking about was a gun runner. He used to threaten people, beat up women, all the rest of it. Again, somebody jabbed him in his sleep with a needle. Yeah, overdosed. Another guy used to kidnap people. Was a big, runner in the narcotics game. Scared. Everyone was scared of him. Shitless. He was a steroided guy and everything. You know what happened? One day, his past caught up with him. They found him in a wooded area with 92 stab wounds in his body. His body looked like a tea bag. So where was all the bravado then in the end? Would you want to live like a brave man and a gangster for 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and then know one day it's going to come back on you, because that's what happens? Yeah. Don't be that person.
Yeah.
Not about that. It's a balance, Dave.
Yeah.
Bottom line, what I'm going to leave you with this is a balance. Never go over your station and reaction. Yeah. Always have a calculated but equal warranted reaction, and do not ever use violence unless it is absolutely 100% necessary in saving your own self or somebody else that is in danger at the time. Yeah. See what I mean? Yeah. That's a noble way to do it. I would never class that person as a thug or a gangster. But if you start doing that shit just to intimidate people and all that, buddy, honey, let me tell you something through experience. One day it's going to catch up with you, and you're going to die like a dog. Yeah, because I've seen it happen to so many people. Call it karma, you call it just going on like that, it just ain't worth it, man. Ain't worth it.
Yep.
Don't live like that. Try and do the best you can every day.
Yep.
Don't be intimidatory. Don't take shit from people either. I must reiterate, I'm not telling anybody to lie down and talk people, walk over them. But give them that one clear message. Give them that warning, if you want to call it, yeah? Give them a manly warning and then listen. Don't ever do that again to anybody, because if I hear of it, bang, we ain't going to be talking next time.
Yeah.
And if you do it in the correct way, with enough power and focus behind what you've just said, and you're coming from a good intention, and you're going to cut down this nasty bastard that he doesn't do it again, I have no problem with that. Neither will anyone else. They'll say, what a good guy, you know. At the end of the day, this prick here done it to my nephew 2 weeks ago. It's going to happen, isn't it? If he's done it once, he's done it before. But don't beat him down, don't shoot him, don't kill him, don't stab him, don't slap him, don't do none of that. But make sure he damn well knows what you're talking about and he never does that again. Then what you've done is you've given him the option to destroy himself by taking that step further and doing it again. Or to give him a chance to maybe go back and think, you know what? What just happened there? I thought I was a big man. Maybe I was wrong. You know what I mean? Sometimes it just jogs somebody into action, not doing it.
Yeah, I follow you clearly.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, Omar. Well, I really appreciate your calling and telling us all about this stuff, because you was very.
Thank you so much, Dave, for giving us the opportunity. And like I said to you before, I love your show. It might not be the biggest thing on the airwaves or anywhere, but it certainly gives a nice little focus to the collection of people that are interested in listening in and maybe having a point of view and you know, maybe talking about different things and discussing that is topical and also. And I really enjoy it, Dave. And I've got to say thanks for the listeners for taking the time to listen to me. Yeah. I did really feel that I had to call in because I have had direct experience in what that gentleman did and or how he did. So I just thought it was only fair to relay my, to get somebody else's in who's maybe sort of had a similar thing. But thanks, Dave.
Yeah,
much obliged. Love you and leave you, my friend. And thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks, Omar. Okay, cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye for now.
Okay, so that was Omar that called in. I'm glad Omar called in. I wanted him to speak a lot more than I did because he's had a similar experience and he wanted to project his knowledge about what took place with the audience. I felt that's a very fair conversation to have because, like I said, I've been lucky enough, I haven't been lucky enough not to have children, but I have not been in that confrontational situation. Clearly, last night I was trying to put myself in that moments of that situation taking place, and to be honest, I couldn't do it. I was trying to get the guy to explain to me, to carry me through the steps of what took place so I could actually envision myself in that exact moment, in that exact part of that experience, so that I could more fully understand it. I couldn't pull that out. And since I haven't had that experience at all, I couldn't evaluate the exact feelings of that exact moment. The only thing that I did say is that, and I did ask this guy repeatedly, I said, was there any physical threat to your daughter? And he said repeatedly, I think 2 or 3 times, that there was none. Now, some people may say, and there's of course programs on this whole thing about a verbal argument or words being used and how dangerous are words. I tend to think that words don't deserve a physical response, and there can be ways of deactivating the physical confrontation with a word spoken. But on the other hand, sometimes verbal words can be pretty harmful, and you'll hear all these programs saying that it's not only physical abuse, it's mental abuse. And it's the verbal abuse that can be almost equivalent to a physical abuse. So I don't study that. Obviously, Omar is very much more versed in this than I am. And that's why I was so delighted to have Omar speak without me interrupting him to give us his perspective of it. So I understand a little bit more. And I hopefully you guys who have been listening in has understood yesterday's program and today's program. See, anyone else have anything to say? You know what? I think I've got to go out tonight because I've got to go out right now, finish the program, because I've got to recharge to do the show tonight. We're going to talk about UFOs. We're going to do a different show. We're going to do a entertaining type of show. However, I do want to really explore UFOs and paranormal as equally as we've explored the situation we discussed for the last 2 days. We delved into it. We delved deep into it. We understand a little bit more. Maybe we're a little bit more tolerant with each other now than we were a couple days ago. Listening to the topics of conversation yesterday and today, I'd like to really delve into what is the true meaning of UFOs, aliens. Are they here now? Why are they here? Have they really ever been here? Have they found us on this little planet Earth? I want to really get into some knowledge here. I want to understand what's really going on instead of guessing at it. So we're going to get more into that tonight, and hopefully future programs we're going to really get into that a lot more. So thanks for joining today. There were a lot of you guys on here. I didn't get to read any of the comments because I was trying to listen to Omar and understand his perspective so I could learn from him. I could learn from yesterday's experience. I didn't read the comments here. So I'm not going to do that until after the program. I'll probably read them later on today. But I better get out of here now because I got to get back to my day gig, unfortunately. I love this to be my day gig, but unfortunately it's not. Maybe it will be at some point. That'd be kind of cool. I'll see you guys later on tonight, 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 o'clock Eastern time, and we'll get into something completely different. See you guys.
Do you know the Dave Darren Show?
Hot enough to boil a monkey's bum.
Who the fuck is Dave Darren?
Who the fuck is Dave Darren?
Are you a puff duck?
He used to be on terrestrial radio, but he got fired.
It's over. Don't you think it's over?
I'll spin, I'll spin, I'll spin.
Who the fuck is Dave Darren?
Here comes the boss fella now.
Dave Darren.